Good
Well,
afternoon, Milwaukee. This is Rahim Islam. Universally speaking, I'm here, and I'm grateful to be here. In fact, feel good today. I got some rest this morning, and so I'm not gonna be so angry. Yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe. No, but it's really good to be here. You listen to Rahim Islam on Universally Speaking. Usually, I have my co-host Tosha. She usually starts to show up. But she's en route, and she'll be here shortly. And so, stay tuned. She'll be here in a minute, and her soft voice will kind of counter my little rough, rugged voice, and so we'll get the ball rolling. But we had a couple things we wanted to talk about today. One, for all of those who are celebrating Kwanzaa, happy Kwanzaa to you. And for all of those who actually celebrated Christmas, happy holiday to you as well. And I guess Hanukkah is also in the mix. So I think you covered it all. We were saying happy holidays. So happy holidays to everyone. And I'm hoping and praying that we actually see these as not holidays but holy days. And then in holy days, you do things differently than holidays. Holidays, you have fun. You probably just, self-indulge. But holy days really is about serving the people. It's really about reaching out to the people and serving the people. That's really what it's about. That's what, in my opinion, about every great leader, every great human being has been about. Has been about the expansion of himself, but also and to extend that energy to humanity. And boy, does humanity need it. In fact, I was reading the three dimensions of Martin Luther King, the three dimensions of, I think it's called the three dimensions of life. I might be wrong, but definitely talks about the three dimensions and the length, the width or breadth, and then the height. So the three dimensions are the length. The length is usually the length of your life. And usually most people, he said, that will fall in this category and will probably do mostly things that satisfies themselves. And then there's a group that transition from the length and transfer that length to the breadth and width. And that is an indication or translated to mean that you transition, now you're serving not only yourself and your family, but you begin to serve humanity. Or you're beyond just yourself, your individual self. And then he said the height is one that really is a rare space for those, but it should be all those that we struggle and strive for, is to connect that to the higher power, the Creator. And you have to believe, well, you don't have to. I mean, I believe that there is a higher power. There is a Creator. This is just not an accident. This is just cannot be an accident that just happened. This is definitely perfect. This is absolutely some divine stuff, some higher order stuff. So once you once you get past, your individual goals and your individual desires, you got to transfer that to humanity. So I think that the holy days, and that's been converted to the holidays and many times commercialized. But the holy days, the concept, the original concepts, and I think the true meaning of these days is to transfer that spirit of individualism into group, into humanity, and to see how you can help and promote humanity as opposed to ourselves. And in fact, one great scholar that I read that life is about giving. When you figure that out, you figured out life. It's not about taking, it's about giving. And when you give, you get. The more you give, the more you get. In fact, there is parables in all the scripture that talks about the ear of corn, where you put one seed and you not only get an ear of corn, you get multiple ears of corn that have thousands and thousands and thousands of seeds from one seed. So you give one, and you get numerous benefits. So the secret of life, I'm giving it to you right now. Take it down. The secret of life is to give. And when you learn how to give, trust me, you just can't wake up and say you're a giver, because you'll lose everything. Giving is about a discipline. Giving is about an attitude. Giving is about a perspective that you must have. Giving is about a devaluing of physical things, taking and putting and de-emphasizing the importance of physical and material things. Giving is about a spirit that once you stick your hand into that spirit, you got a shot of doing something. So giving is not something you just can wake up and start doing. Giving is something you got to learn how to do. You got to practice. You got to build the muscles for giving, because they're just not automatic. And in fact, you have to even work harder. Because the society has now created a situation where it's easy for you to do the simple thing. It's easy for you to do, in fact, the wrong thing. In many cases, it's very easy. And the more you get, the easier it is for you to do the wrong thing. So it's very hard to do the right thing, and it's very hard for you to practice giving. You got to do it. You got to do it with a purpose and a passion, and you got to grow it. You got to grow it like any other muscle. You got to grow it. So giving is an attitude. So that's what we want to try to focus on, and that's what Universally Speaking is all about. So I don't know. I did my intro. That's my intro. Oh, Toshi.
Hi, Rahim.
Oh, Toshi there. Oh, okay. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see you walk in the door any second.
Hi, Rahim. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. Today is Umoja in Kwanzaa, which means unity.
And you know, I don't. Two things I don't do. I don't talk about unity.
Well,
you're scared black people. You start talking about unity.
Well, we can say Umoja then.
No, we can
that's
say
what today is.
We can say cooperation, right?
Okay, well, we can say cooperation.
Let's listen that word down, because we don't want to frighten the people.
We don't want to scare the people. But today is the first day of Kwanzaa, and today is all about us striving to work together, because we're better together.
Yeah, I wrote a piece earlier today. In fact, I wrote a piece to try to be nice about it, but I thought I did anyway. But I talked about the whole being bigger than the sum of its parts, and that we gotta figure it out. We have to figure it out. So there was two things that came up in this, because I did an interview earlier today, and two things that came up in the discussion that was part of what I wrote about as well. Was one is we have to come to understanding that we've been damaged. And so you're not going to be able to figure this thing out if you haven't really studied that we've been damaged. And then second, the other thing was, especially with the young people today, and talk about the movements that's taking place, they have to be informed. Anger for just anger's sake is just going to create a hostile environment. It's not going to produce anything. It's going to maybe get a few people killed, quite a few people locked up. But at the end of the day, after all that is said and done, you done lost people to some effort. What's going to happen after that? We have to transfer that anger into action. And so those are the two things. And so the question was, what did we learn from history? And sitting with us today is a man who knows a lot about our history, who actually teaches history, is a scholar in history. He's a writer. He's also a school board chairman, Dr. Michael Bonds.
Thank you, Rahim. I'd like to say hello to everyone in the station and the listening audience. I just want to stop in today and just talk about some of the great things that's going on in MPS for a few minutes. One of the biggest things we have accomplished recently was we cut our unfunded liability from $3.7 billion to $1.1 billion. So we saved taxpayers over $2.6 billion, and that enabled us to put millions back into the classroom over the last
How did you do that?
Well, we took advantage of redesigning healthcare systems. We took advantages of some of the tools provided under Act 10. We worked with our unions and making changes in terms of eliminating full-time and permanent benefit for part-time employees. We did a freeze on the high end. We did a freeze on steps, increase it. These were some painful decisions, but at the end of the day, we was able to save over $2.7 billion or cut our unfunded liability by 70%, which is almost unheard nationally. And over the last 3 years, we've been able to put in over $300 million back into the classroom. Now in every school, at least one day a week, or if not 2 days, a couple of days, every student has access to art, music, and FIAD. And we also been able to add parent coordinators this year. And then besides the financial thing, we also got some good things brewing academically. We hired Dr. Darian Driver, a PhD from Harvard, to be our superintendent. Initially, she was the interim superintendent for several months, and we stopped the search and appointed her. And what I really like about her, she's very energetic. She's very young, energetic, probably one of the youngest superintendents in the nation.
Oh, she has to be.
But what's important about her, she focused, and she understands the importance of closing the academic achievement gap, and she really focused on that. So I think in the next few years under Dr. Driver leadership, I think there's going to be some really great things going on in the district. And we're also glad that we've been expanding opportunity with charter schools like Universal. I'm glad to announce the Universal will be adding a third campus this year.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
At Lee Elementary School. And I'm glad to know that students will be able to have access to some college bounds programs and everything like that. So I want to thank you for being part of our portfolio at the university. And a couple of years ago, we had a new program, Carmen, at the old John Muir School. So we've been in top quality charter schools into our district. And recently, the NAEP scores came out, the National Academic Education Progress Scores, and they show Milwaukee as one of 10 school districts that's really turning around. And I think under Dr. Driver leadership, we will continue that trend. I think you'll see a public school district in the next few years that people can really be proud of. While we have made some success, we do have some challenges, but I think that under Dr. Driver leadership, the district will be headed in the right direction.
Well, I'm telling you, that was a whole lot. And I just want to go back to the savings, the 7% unfunded liability you discussed. If we look at that in our personal lives and say, well, we were able to cut more than half of our liability out, we all would be happy as I don't know what. And so, but when you put those kind of numbers together and you talk about in the billions of dollars, it has to translate into better flexibility, better accountability for the district.
Yes, and I talked with Mike Casley of the Council of Great Schools City in Washington, and he said no other school district has been able to do what we have did. For that matter, ain't too many government entities nationally have been able to cut unfunded liability by 70% or $2.6 billion in less than 6 years.
Well, I think kudos to your team, kudos to the leadership there, yourself, the other board members, kudos to Dr. Driver. I think she definitely, I've worked with her. I know her, and I worked with her in the past. I really like her spirit. She has that, obviously she has the benefit of being young, so she don't have a lot of history of failure, and she has a stellar background that she is prepared, I believe, for the challenge and for the job.
And alone as she has the compassion and commitment for
Absolutely.
kids,
Absolutely,
that's going to make a difference. And one of the things that really attracted me to her when I first got to know her was just her focus and the focus on the academic. When she first came in Milwaukee, the previous superintendent, Dr. Thornton, left us with a solid foundation to build on. He had brought her in as the chief innovation officer, focusing with a lot of our challenging schools, and just watching her do the work, you could see that she had a lot of potential, and I was glad when she was decided to accept the role as the interim, and even more happy when she decided to accept the appointment as permanent superintendent. I hope the community get an opportunity to meet her in the next few months. She's very dynamic, really focused, but the key the compassion she has for kids and the commitment that she has for kids, I think is something that's really needed. And I think under her leadership, the district is going to be in pretty good shape in the next few years.
Well, I think thank you for that update. Clearly, this is really, really important. I think that one of the old issues that's challenged the black community. I mean, I say old because, I've been hearing it all my life about the public education and the issue of public education. And we really need a long-term strategy. This thing is not going to get fixed, and that's been the problem, I think, for many people. They've tried to create quick fixes. And it just doesn't happen.
There's no such thing as a quick fix. I go to conferences nationally, and I meet colleagues from all over the U.S., and they're facing some of the same challenges. And when people come up with these reform ideals or repackage old ideals,
exactly,
and claim that they're going to fix that there's some panacea, that's not the case. If it's that easy, everyone been there did it. You got to deal with kids on a case by case basis. No two kids are similar, and it takes time. We didn't get into the situation we got in overnight, and but I am glad to say that if you look at all the indicators, they are headed in the positive direction. Maybe not at the pace we want, but the important thing is we have reversed the trend, and they're going positive. With the understanding, we do have a lot of challenges. We have 84% of our students qualify for low and free reduced lunch. We have
so there is a definitely direct correlation between poverty and academic achievement.
We got a 20% special ed rate. We got close to a 40% mobility rate. So we have challenges and everything. Real. But the important thing is you have professionals at all levels in the district working to address those problems on a daily basis, and it's very challenging. Then when you put it in a broader context of the city of Milwaukee, you live in the most segregated city in America, the fourth highest poverty city in America, the highest income gap between blacks and white in America, some of the highest incarceration rate in the nation. You look at the infant mortality rate, we got some of the rates higher than third world countries. So when you look at all these factors, these come into the school. They aren't excuses, but at the same time, they do impact what's going on in the school. But the more important thing, we recognize these, and we try to work with different partners in the community to try to address these issues.
So I think then that goes to when you start to articulate these kind of issues, that speaks to a bigger solution. An education solution, no question, but these are some very, very daunting issues that must be coupled with an education solution.
Well, when you look at the fact that Milwaukee lead the nation in incarceration of African American male, we had the highest income gap between blacks and white in the nation, some of the highest poverty rates in the nation. When you get to reiterating all those facts, those issues come into the classroom.
Sure, on a daily basis.
And sometimes people think that the school operates in a vacuum. It doesn't. For some kids, they come to schools, a relative might have got killed. One of the hardest things as school board president each month is I got to read the names of students that died that month, either through violence or natural cause. And it seems like each month I'm reading more and more names of students getting killed. Young people haven't had a chance or opportunity to live their life, and so these are challenges that we have. And then that when somebody is killed, that's somebody's son, daughter, brother, sister, uncle, relative, just a whole bunch of
and
issues.
I think that goes to that first point I was talking about, the trauma that not only that we've been born in, many of us, but we see it on a daily basis, and then we almost discount it as if we're animals or something, that we're not impacted by this trauma that we see. It's traumatizing for our children to see some of the things that they're seeing and living in very unstable. Poverty in itself, if poverty was alone just an issue, it would be a challenge. But it's just not just poverty, as you know. I don't know how many people, I'm sure a lot of people know in Milwaukee, but how many of our listeners and audience here know about you? What is your background? Tell people a little about yourself.
I grew up in Milwaukee Central City. I grew up on 5th and Garfield in 6th and Vienna. I attended Rufus King High School in the Old Parkman. I graduated with a 1.3 GPA from high school, and then I finished college in less than 3 years, and then I went on got 2 masters and a PhD.
Wait, hold.
He
Back
fast. He like
back up.
He flew through that.
No.
didn't he?
We need to put a little tension, a little pause there on the 1.3 high school graduation. So that technically is failure. I mean, in many cases.
Yes.
I mean, you would not have been considered.
Was deemed academically.
A deemed. Yeah, you would not have been considered.
But
by any stretch of the imagination with those kind of numbers. I mean,
By
to
tests
look to
and grades, right.
to be looked out for, right?
Right. That he's gonna ultimately end up
being Dr. Bonds, right?
right.
So tell us what happened. What's the transition? What happened?
Well, when I grew up, there was I had friends who was way smarter than me. I always tell people I wasn't the smartest one. I was the one that got out. And I had friends that had academic skills that I only dream of having. But we made choices and we chose different direction. But it was something about me that I had a lot of friends that even though they chose friends and relatives, they chose different routes. They saw something in me and they kind of provided a shield over me,
Gotcha.
and they kind of directed me the right way. And I was kind of...
It goes back to that village.
Yeah, so and they pushed me the right way, and then I graduated from high school on Wednesday, signed up for the Army Friday, and left Monday morning. I was 17 at the time, and I thought that made the difference in my life because it got me out the environment I grew up in, and it showed me there was more to life. I met
Something
people from
else.
all over the U.S., and they exposed me to different readings about books like Malcolm X, Angela Davis, George Jackson. When I came out, I just had that thirst for reading, but
Hold on a second. That's a key word, though. Exposure.
right.
We have to figure out a way to expose our young people because once we create those pathways, then they see it's more to life than just whatever they deal with. But go ahead, Dr. Bond.
So when I came out, I just wanted to read, and I would just hang out in the library downtown and hang out at Martin Luther King Center to stay out the neighborhood. And then I got in school. Back then, a lot of people don't know, back in the 1970s, they had what you call open admission at a lot of the universities across the nation. And that meant regardless of what your high school performance was, you could go to college. You could go to college. So I was admitted, and they had this free summer program where you would take courses in English, science, and math, and kind of like remedial courses. So, and I did pretty well. And then I remember my first semester, I got a 2.7, and after that, I knew I could do it. And then I wound up graduating less than 3 years. Then I was accepted at Northwestern, Princeton, Berkeley, Madison, and Georgia, and I chose Northwestern University down in Evanston. Then I transferred back to UWM and finished up my first master's. Then a couple years later, I got my second master's. Then I got my doctorate degree.
What was your master's in?
Urban affairs with an emphasis on urban policy analysis. Then the second master was public administration with an emphasis on administration. Then the PhD was urban studies with an emphasis on urban policy analysis. And then I completed a business certificate on how to go about setting up and opening up business through the UW business system. And then I worked for 13 years as a budget and policy analyst for the Milwaukee Common Council, where I would do their analysis of the budgets and do their policy stuff. So, which exposed me to a lot of urban issues. And then I went to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, where I was at, and I got tenure in about 5 years, and then I've been there full time.
That's pretty remarkable.
Now I'm the department chairperson, and so I wear quite a few hats on the education.
And I know you don't have much time, but I want to just make sure a couple of things I want to just point out, or at least get you to elaborate a little bit more on. One is when you start talking about, because I remember reading your book about following the money, basically.
Yeah, race politics and community development.
And so, but you have that is one of the most unique approaches I've seen, how basically the cities are benefiting from the poverty, but yet they redistribute it in a different way.
Yeah, well, basically the city used the conditions of the central city to get the funds, but when it's time to allocate the funds, the city take a large portion of it to pay for city functions, which usually would be paid for tax dollar, which means less funds are going to the community.
To the problems.
Yeah, where the problems are at. And I looked at a historical piece from 1975 to 1997. So I looked at how the funds was used, and what I concluded in my book was, had the city of Milwaukee used the funds for its intended purposes, some of the poverty that you see today probably wouldn't exist.
And so part of the reason why I bring that up is to kind of fast forward to where we are, and in order for us to not continue this cycle of allowing these kind of things to happen. One, we have to have knowledge about it, number one. And two, that we have to have a big enough voice to address it. So that's why I go back to the concept of, marching. And yeah, you got to march. But at the end of the day, it's going to take some serious conversation, dialogue strategies to undo this kind of, ridiculous stuff that's taking place in our community.
Well, I will argue it's beyond marching. I'll tell people that the key is understanding institutional racism and understanding how policies that may appear race neutral on the surface may have racial implications.
Absolutely.
And the trace model, the trace analysis model that I use for the block grant study, you can apply that to the W-2 funds. They have did the same thing. And I always tell students that at the university, hey, if you really want to understand the inequities and that communities face, understand the institutional racism, how policies are in place. So even though people may change,
right, how
the policies are in place that keep people at a disadvantage. And one thing that's really I find really neglectful is the focus on the institutions and how they contribute to that. People, you can do marches, but you can change people in office, but if you don't change the policies and the procedures that created these inequity, it doesn't matter.
Right. And I think that's why I think understanding past movements, but also today it's really about, we have a historical perspective. We know a little bit more. We should anyway. The other is right. I've seen, and I couldn't describe it the way you did, and I'm going to take that now and use that. What appears to be race neutral is the way to get you, and so and also if it requires substantial capital investment, it's not race neutral. I mean, because as a race, we have far less capital than our counterparts as generational structural deficiencies. And so you talk about, another book that I read of yours is the book about
black businesses.
Right, the historical perspective of black businesses in Milwaukee. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things that unfortunately Milwaukee also lead the nations in housing and business loan rejection. I'll quick count out, there was 16 years in a row a few years ago when Milwaukee was leading the nation every year in housing and business loans rejections for African Americans.
Now, just for a minute, people might hear that, but talk about the consequences.
Well, the consequences is being denied business loans. You can't own properties, and you can't accumulate wealth. And it's one thing to have income.
So you stymie businesses.
Yeah, and I always tell people it's one thing to have income versus wealth. Income can go just like that overnight, but wealth is long-term, and wealth is transferable. And then to get wealth, you got to be able to get capital to own businesses and stuff like that. And unfortunately, Milwaukee has a long history of denying African-American housing loan. And one of my colleagues at the university, Greg Squires, he's at George Washington now, he did a couple studies, and he showed that as the African-American income in Milwaukee increased, their loan denial increased. So it was a direct relationship. You would think that the higher one income, the more likely you would get loan, but
it started the rejections increase.
Yeah, and then also in his book, he talked about how whether it's first mortgage, second mortgage, or rehab loans, you was rejected more. And so when you look at all the negative indicators in Milwaukee, I forgot to mention a house and a business loan, we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom.
So the question for us, Dr. Barnes, thank you so much for, whetting our appetite, I think, and also putting a kind of a scholarly approach to this whole struggle. This struggle is really going to require skills and experience and being able to navigate in these systems. You just can't walk into these systems and expect to change them. You have to really understand what's actually going on.
I think the key is and also getting in key positions. I was fortunate when I worked for the Common Council for 13 years doing their policy and budget analysis. I was able to see how internal decisions was made, understanding the budgetary process and understanding how money flows and stuff like that. And at the time, my boss, he assigned me to what I call non-traditional departments in like public works, Department of City Development, the big item departments, and you learn a lot
See
on
a lot,
yeah,
right.
you see how millions of dollars are being spent yearly and how things can be redirected if you really wanted to deal with some of the inequity. But one of the biggest things I find missing in the Milwaukee African American community is you don't have an economic base. And without an economic base, you're dependent on other people for your livelihood. You're less willing to fight, because people will put pressure on you. Like people have came to my job. My dean once told me that somebody came to my job and told him to get me under control, and his response was, one, you don't have time for that. Two, Michael's a tenure professor, and as long as Michael doing his work at the university, they don't. He don't have
Can't
time.
censor, they can't censor you.
No,
Right.
so I've been fortunate to have those positions where my livelihood isn't dependent on people, and I'm freely able to express my views. But the reality is, a lot of people aren't in that position, and so I feel I'm lucky in that regard.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, it's very, very touch and go when you can be threatened, and really there's a consequence to you saying the right thing or even doing the right thing. But we're excited about at least that we know we have this expertise in our community, and I think that the next step is to look at these things and take the guidance of some of the stuff you're doing. But the question is, what are some of the solutions? If you say we have no economics and we lack that kind of economic base, the question will be, well, then how do we do it? How do we rebuild? How do we begin to? No, we're not gonna rebuild it to even the levels that we had 60, 70 years ago.
Well, I think when you look at, I think
Not overnight, anyway.
No, not overnight, but I think when you look at some of the people who are beginning to build an economic base, I look at Melissa Goins, who's doing a lot of development stuff like that. That's how you start getting the economic development base. When Carl G was at OIC, he was buying up property. He was buying up stuff that contributed to wealth building.
Right.
And I think that's what we need to work on. We need to partnership together on some businesses. I always looked at one thing that has always bothered me is I look at how the Latino community, which started late in Milwaukee after the African American community, when I look at their chambers of commerce and then I look at how scattered we are with ours, and actually we have several, in my book I talked about the several different minority chambers that we had, and then I look at how other communities have cultural centers, and we still haven't been able to get a cultural center yet in Milwaukee. And I just think that that people really got to look at doing some bold joint initiatives and but holding these institutions accountable. In the 1970, Congress passed the Community Redevelopment Act, and that allowed people to challenge banks' lending practices.
Right.
And I remember you actually used to have groups that was doing that, and they used to receive city funding, and those funding was cut off when bankers came to City Hall complaining that these groups was challenging their lending practices. But under the Community Redevelopment Act, you can actually challenge businesses, banks and financial institutions on their unwillingness or inability to loan money in certain communities. And I think we really got to start looking at trying to enforce those, because you could do all the protests and stuff, but at the end, unless you really focus on these institutions and how they are able to keep these inequities over time, you're still going to have many of the challenges that you face now. And I'm actually finishing a book on the history of Black Milwaukee called Historical Black Milwaukee, the people, events, and institutions that shaped it 1950 to 2014. And my very last sentence in the book, and I hope I'm proven wrong, is as we enter 2015, outlook for Black Milwaukee is very bleak. And I hope that I'm proven wrong, but when I look at all the indicators, whether it's health, economics, the demise of the Black community organizations, the demise of the Black businesses, the lack of leadership in the community. When I look at all those indicators, I see the outlook for Black Milwaukee is very bleak.
No, you're not wrong, but there's a chance to fix it. We can change that picture.
I'm hoping we can.
Well, you mentioned it, and one of the solutions you talked about some of the works of, you talked about Melissa Goins' Moore's development, and so what I've been doing is meeting with all the different developers and some of the contractors to talk about a shared game plan.
And that's what we need.
Right. I mean, in fact, it's not some remarkable, genius kind of move. It's kind of a very basic move. In fact, I think we've tried everything except that. And so I'm hoping that we can get the kind of traction in Milwaukee. We're making some progress in Philadelphia around organizing different segments of our community and getting them moving in the right direction, and then sitting them side by side with other segments. So there is a partner in the education. Yeah. There's a partner around the political community. There's a partner in the business community. There's a partner in the social services. There's a way that we begin to measure some of these key indicators, and they start to reverse. But they're not going to reverse themselves if we don't interrupt them. And we're not going to interrupt them, like you said, if we're not really expert at those areas, or at least good students. And so I'm not an expert. I don't think I'm an expert at anything, but I'm a good student of the movement.
See, and I would disagree. I think everyone has some expertise.
Well,
everyone has an expertise.
Well, I think you've downplayed yourself. I'm gonna downplay myself too, because that's just humility. But the bottom line is that I'm a student of this movement. I'm a student of organizing our people. I'm a student of all of the great leaders that come before us. Even you talked about OIC. You talked about, and I knew Reverend Sullivan personally. All the different movements that have taken place, I've seen what they could been able to do and what they couldn't do. And I see one that's cultivating, percolating now, and it is wired for a massive hurt. Because this community we're dealing with now is more equipped. They have the jails, they have the infrastructure now to just unbelievably take us off the street, where before they didn't even have it before. So mass protests, they know how to handle it, and they're looking for violence. They're just waiting for violence. And so I just encourage us to, how do we figure out how we harness that energy, but put side by side with some of our elders, some of our different business sectors, so we can begin to have a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, and I think from a school perspective, one thing we've been trying to go back and focus on is making the schools as a center for the community.
Exactly.
As one of the
as a hub.
As a hub, and I guess as a board member, one of the biggest challenges that I always face is school closures. And those are hard decisions. And there's some closures. If I could go back, I would redo, and there was some that was needed. But one thing that they taught me was that schools are one of the few remaining viable institutions in some of these neighborhoods.
Of course.
And you have to be cautious and look at that as a broader thing. But one thing we've been working on, it started under Dr. Thornton and Dr. Driver, is the current superintendent is expanding. It's making the schools a hub of communities and drawing on community partnerships. And those partnership will also address some of the issues that we have. But the one thing that keep coming back to me, having worked years in government agencies and studying policies and stuff like that, budget analysis, is that economic base. You got to have an economic base.
So to our business community, I had a long discussion in Philadelphia with quite a few business community members and leaders, and basically I came to the same conclusion. They have to kind of carry a lot of this. And so there are ways to kind of minimize it so it doesn't be a burden on any one person. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, who has the capability, the capacity to undertake this here? If they don't, then who does? I mean, we're not going to be able to manufacture this type of entrepreneur and these business people. So the business community really is, has a good shot, but they're going to have to change the the paradigm of independence and free agency to some kind of working together.
And I can tell you locally, from a school board perspective, in the last 7 years, I've seen the business community get more involved in the district, and I've had business leaders have told me in the past that their position was let the system die out, but now they have seen some of the changes that have been made, and actually people are investing more in the school, and that will help develop some of the capital that I'm talking about that we need in this community.
Well, Dr. Barnes, you're awesome, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you for your leader. Thank you for your study too, man. I mean, this cannot go undersaid and undermentioned the significance of your study. And so we're going to promote that information, and you look at that side by side, because that is the kind of study that's going to guide us in the future. If we don't have it, I think we're kind of shooting, just throwing things out there. We got to be guided by information, and so we don't have time to be redoing all of this stuff. So thank you for what you've done.
And I think that key relative to our study was holding people accountable for the funds that come to the city to help disadvantaged community. And something I think historically has been lacking in the city of Milwaukee.
Well, Tosha?
Yes?
I'm throwing it back to you, sis.
Thank you, Rahim. Dr. Brown, when can we expect the book? When is the book
Well,
coming
hopefully, I could finish it. The book is virtually done now. I'm just editing it, and I just said hopefully I could get 2 weeks over my month break off from the university and finish it in, and hopefully it'll be out in of January or early February.
So we're looking at the first quarter of 2015.
Yes.
To expect the book. So you will come back.
Yes, and
once the book is out.
It has 20 chapters. A chapter on demographic, population trends, income, poverty, unemployment. Chapters on religious, social group, cultural activities. Health issues. I talk about the different hospital closures in Milwaukee Central City in the last 50 years. So.
Okay. So you'll come back on the show when the book comes out and let people know where they can get it and how they can support you.
Yes.
Book signing, things like that. So we thank you for coming on the show. Okay. And we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the targeted black male. We have another guest who has joined us, who promised last week that he was going to come back and hold it down with us. He's going to spit for us a little bit today, too. All right. So, Rahim, you going to spit, too?
No, I'm going to talk.
You are listening to Universally Speaking with Rahim Islam on 860 AM WNOV, The Voice. Welcome back to Universally Speaking with Rahim Islam on 860 AM WNOV, The Voice. I am your missing co-host.
You're not missing now. Hey, did you hear that piece with Gene Carr, Don't Let It Go Through Your Head? Is that, I mean,
beautiful.
Gamble and Huff was kicking some serious butt.
Mr. Gamble got it going on.
I mean, he wrote that, Don't Let It Go to Your Head. And that was one of her biggest smashes.
Right.
Right.
But you know what? When you meet Mr. Gamble, it's so hard to imagine that he birthed, not just him, but he and his partner.
Oh, no,
but
him,
all of this stuff.
he wrote himself about 700 songs.
Oh my gosh.
And he probably has a catalog of about 4,000 songs that they wrote and produced, and about almost 300 hits. So, I mean, where
you know what? And that's when you say hits, that's just based on what.
No, these are hits.
Right.
These are either.
But that's not, because when you get an album, it's still some songs in there that you like. That ain't necessarily the hits, but.
I mean, I remember when Gene Carr did this song. I remember when he did this song. I remember clearly. And the groove is just phenomenal. I mean, so I was always asking Kenny. I said, Kenny, he said he would have to cut the sessions because the artists would just be jamming. and then the other thing he said, they were putting out in the 70s. They were putting out the 33 albums, but they were just one song, so they would do the long version
of them.
So this song here, this song probably had a 20-minute version. Man, look, you can just jam it for 20 minutes. You be like, hold it. I can't do it no longer. I gotta stop. It's just like 15 minutes in. I gotta go give me a water break.
Yeah, they'll make something.
I'm
like that.
talking
3
about
minutes.
Backstabbers was 22 minutes.
Nah, they don't make songs like that no more. You get 3 minutes.
Hey, look, can you imagine what those artists was doing in that studio?
They had it going on.
They had it going on, man. They was jamming. And so don't let it go to your head. And listen to the lyrics. Kitty used to always say there's a message in the music. So what's the message? The message is love. Hey, I'm gonna sound like a real DJ. The message.
You kind of look like a DJ today. You
I
look
do?
like, yeah.
I do.
You got
Okay.
the whole
Okay.
bebop type.
The message is love. Can I get deep enough? Love.
Mr. Gamble will be here in some months.
Yeah, in April.
In April.
Yeah, we try to do a big thing for.
We don't want to announce what it is yet.
Oh no, we're gonna do a big event. No,
Yeah,
we want to
there's
do a
something
big Philly event.
There's something
Bring
coming.
Bring Philly into Milwaukee.
East Coast.
Yeah,
Midwest. So,
a merger.
and you're going to merge them together?
Yeah, we're
The
gonna have
city of love and the city of...
what is it, Milwaukee? No, steel manufacturing, agriculture.
Bruce City.
Oh, Brew City. Oh, Brew and Love. Boy, that's a diamond. That's a unbelievable. That's toxic. That you got to get out of that one. Yeah, you get the brew and the love.
And mix it all up.
Oh, that's toxic.
Wait a minute. It's brotherly love and sisterly.
Oh yeah, I don't use.
You
that
don't use
one.
the sister.
Nah, that's
come
so
on,
corny.
Rahim. That
No.
ain't-
I mean, because brotherly love means women and men. So,
So you don't buy into
but the women now, with the whole feminist
Is the
movement,
sisterly
affection. Talk about brotherly love, sisterly affection. Well, that's just so angry when you say that. I mean, yeah,
see
good.
that face?
And anyway, we didn't say it. I mean, the founders said it. They didn't say it. Sisterly
and
affection.
they look, you know what? When they said it, they wasn't talking about nobody black.
Well, there's no question. But here's what I say all the time. Forget about what they said and what they meant. The concept is real.
It's about love.
And guess what? If it's about brotherly love, let's use it for ourselves. If it's about democracy, let's use it for ourselves. If it's about liberation, let's use these things for ourselves. So I'm down with that. So I'm spitting.
You spitting?
I'm spitting.
Okay. You just spit a little bit
I
right
spit
there.
a little bit.
Okay. So, we
But
were...
nothing like they really be doing it.
So, we have another guest with us today. I know y'all want to know who it is, right? I'm going to see if you can guess. I'm going to let him come to the mic. And when he finishes, we're going to see if you can tell us who it is.
To quote Money Making Mitch, homie, I am the bridge between the rookies and the vets, the parents and the kids, them straight-laced cats to all them brothers doing bids. I'm old enough to show you how it was and tell you how it is. Out on the street, no time for sleeping or dozing. That's why the shorties ain't dreaming, because their futures are frozen. So they buy into them lies that the street life chose them. Mama lost them, but yo, I got the flow to defrost them. I kick it with the young thugs often. I'd rather see them dressed up on stage than dressed in a coffin. And running full courts without wheezing and coughing, the blunt got them. Try to catch them before they hit rock bottom. New Jordans, we rock them. Latest jeans, we cop them to look fly, to cover the real problem. Nobody want to be Malcolm or Martin or Mike. It's all about likes and Facebook fights. Some fame and a name, that's important to the streets. Making sure my people eat, that's important to me. What's happening, y'all?
You got to say, oh.
And now I'm blown away. I am absolutely blown away. That is phenomenal.
Thanks,
That
brother.
in fact is, I believe everything you said.
Wow.
I believe in what you said.
Wow. Thanks, brother. That's what we try to
that.
do.
No, I believe in it. I believe it with all my heart and soul. I just could never say it like that, but that's awesome.
Wow. Thanks,
So,
brother.
Rahim and I were unable to attend PU for one night on Tuesday. We know I heard about it. I know Tony was there. I know Tony captured it all.
How did it go? I mean, tell us. Can
Oh,
share? Can you share what
That was
happened?
a good night. It was a real energetic night.
I got somebody just texted in a
Oh, okay. That's what's up. It was very reminiscent to me of PU.
Thanks, Toya.
Maybe a few years ago, I'd say, because it was jam packed. It was that really great energy, was in the room. It was a great night. It was a great night. People were on their A game. Like I said, it was a great night. It's kind of a shame that won't continue, but who knows what'll happen in the future. You know what I mean? But it was a great night. I'm glad I was there. glad I was able to witness it.
So
Nobody had to tell me.
why you say it won't happen in the future?
I don't know. I mean, that was kind of like the last hurrah, from my understanding. There was like Qua said, he wanted to kind of pay respects to Anita, pay respect to some folks that we lost over the time, and that was kind of like, okay, we're going to give him one last show. You know, Mike Jordan's coming back with the 45 jersey. You know what I mean? We're coming back for the last hurrah. So my understanding, that's kind of what that was.
Oh yeah, well we can. I mean, we need those we need a magnet to bring out the conscious people.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be conscious to want to sit there and listen to that. You got to be conscious. You got to have a feeling for our people, and I think if that's the language of the young people, we got to figure out a way how we prop that up and communicate to our people.
Yeah,
so if that's the way, then we got to figure out how to keep that going. I mean, that's just way too valuable.
Yeah.
And maybe people get tired, and so let's.
And one person's carrying the
can't
load.
go, right? It's too many. It's too much, But to say I don't feel good, that don't sit well with my heart at all. When you say that, because just again, I said if that's the kind of thing that was taking place at that night, I just think it just helps our community.
Maybe it can't be a weekly thing. Maybe it's a monthly thing, or maybe it's a twice a month thing. But it doesn't need to go away. We need that right now more than anything.
Absolutely.
We'll host what me and you hosted.
Let's do it.
Check this out. Check this out. I'm serious. I'm just help organizing everything, and I can't spit, but clearly though.
But you can drop some knowledge.
Well, I mean, here's what I'll say. I'll say this. Here's where we're going. So after we have some fun, after we have good times, after we have some therapeutic kind of sessions and we start to kind of spill our souls, what's next? And what's next is we got to come to the table and we got to sit down and we got to talk like adults, sober adults, and figure out how do we get it done. What Dr. Bonds was talking about.
Right.
Systems. This is not no joke. This thing is way, way deeper than most people think it is. They think it can just, wish it away. But no, it ain't gonna wish it away. This is very, very entrenched stuff. He said a term he used, race neutral, but racial systemically structural racism. Mm-hmm. And it's, what better way to hide racism when you call it race neutral? Mm-hmm. It's the best way. You fighting it's like you fighting in the invisible fight. You're getting hit, you're getting whipped, you're getting popped, you're getting smashed, but you don't need to see where the enemy is coming from.
Right.
No, because you're thinking that it's race neutral. Because they said at the beginning, this is race neutral. This is applied for everybody. Well, then you get smashed right now.
You well, how come him next to me, he didn't get hit?
Well, no. You know what I like? Here's what I like, and I think some of our people who have been out here fighting for economic opportunities, I liken it to this. I've gone into hostile environments. I mean, hostile where there's these public meetings, right? Mm. Just picture this in your mind and everybody in there is angry. They're upset. And so there's a board of people who got to make a decision, and the gavel got to hit, and it hit the gavel and says, we're going to vote, no matter how hostile the environment is, right? Well, for us, we go into that hostile environment, and they want to deliberate and deliberate and deliberate.
And talk.
And then the other jokers come in, and they says, gavel. What happened to that? I says, and so even if we win, even after the deliberation, we're so wounded, so damaged, beat down that and then they put in there, not only did they do the gavel for the other joker, with no protest, with no hesitation, bam, you gonna vote? Yes. And then it comes to you, they have all these conditions they place on you. So that's what we go through in the business community. That's what we go through. And so the bottom line is that, we got, it's just, and they talk about it under the whole context of race neutral. If that ain't discriminatory, I don't know what is.
Right, and we got to be able to see that and understand it and know how to fight it.
They drag you through the coals. And here's another trick they'll do. Instead of them voting that night, We're gonna delay it.
We're gonna send it to committee.
We're gonna delay the vote.
Right. We're gonna delay the vote and send it back to committee.
Said, no, you know what? I'm not letting none of you jokers out of here till you vote. Now, you're gonna vote against me, but you're not leaving here. No, not after what we going through.
Right.
You whipped us for months, and they leak stuff in the newspapers. They talk about how bad things are and how we ain't that this and we ain't got that and we don't got this and how dare them give this to us. And these other jokers just walk right on in. It reminds me of the back in the day back in the day for me. When we used to go to the clubs, they used to have these long lines, right? And so
I can't believe you ever stood in line.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, okay.
I did.
Oh
shucks. there were times I did, but there were times that I didn't either.
Okay, all right.
But it's a beautiful thing. They says, Rahim, you in this line? Get out of this line. Come on, open this thing line. Get your butt out of this line. Get out of this line. Get on up here, man. Go on in. No, I'm gonna be with the people. No. You get out of this line.
And then you look back at the line and you be like,
thank God. No, but the point I want to make.
My brother, I will see you inside.
Yeah, I know. I see you inside. Says, man, you left us. But check this out. The point I'm making is, though, that's their ride. White privilege is like that all day long.
All the time. Go straight to the front.
We in a line, long as I, like a rock star, a rock concert line, they get VIP treatment. Somebody comes in the line, get them out of the line, and take them to the front of the line. Yep. And then they say, oh, it's race neutral. Man, these are the tricks, boy, I tell you. But I don't even know how I even got into that conversation, except that I think that what you're saying, brother, that was just very powerful.
Thank you.
I like to even just, respond by you call it the verses, the different verses. Give me one of those first verses. I wanted to respond to.
Sure.
So I want to explore, like remember we was talking with Dr. Bonds. I said put a pen in it right there.
Yeah,
I want to just there was some very powerful pieces in that, and I just want to just take a couple of them and just go over them.
That first part I said that I'm the bridge between the rookies and the vets and the parents and the kids. Straight-laced cats to all them brothers doing bids. I'm old enough to tell you how it was and show you how it is.
So that's what
the intergenerational.
Right.
That is killing us, our community. That is killing our community. And then the other thing is that you talked about the number of men incarcerated. Doing bids. I mean, people, we have glamorized the whole thing.
Right.
But the people in prison ain't glamorizing it.
Right. I just went and visited my son yesterday. Nobody was glamorizing what was happening yesterday.
Oh man, that's bad, man.
Yeah.
So this is real. When I go into the January 2nd or 3rd, I do an annual thing up in Philadelphia, and I go to 6 prisons that makes up this prison industrial complex. And they have 1 prison for women and 4 for men and 1 for children. Children who are sentenced as adults. So I go in there. First of all, 2 things shocked me last year. One is when I went in there, I met a grandfather, father, and a son who are all in prison. But there were a number of father and sons, so that wasn't nothing. The kicker was it was a grandfather, father, and son, 3 generations in prison, and it saddened me so much. It still eats at me when I think about it. But it was crippling. The second thing that really crippled me was when I went to the youth or the young, I don't know what they call it, but the younger prison. And it's a prison because they have the same thing as a prison, but they couldn't put them in the population with the adults because they still were kids.
Minors.
So all of them have either aggravated assaults to murder, right? So I go in there. There was only 1 kid. There was about 230 kids in there. There was 1 kid that was only 17. Everybody else was 16 and under.
Wow.
Right? So I go in there. I'm thinking I'm going to see Thug for life. Like Thug out. I don't know what I thought. I seen babies. Wow. I seen a bunch of kids. They were no more than kids. They looked like kids, act like kids. They felt like kids. They smelled like kids. They were kids. They were just absolute free kids that now are trapped in the system. Most of them will be in that system for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
I'm like, what's going on? And then I find out in Maryland is building the first prison for children. Wow. Children who've been convicted as adults. And now they're inviting all over the country so you can send your children to this prison.
Wow. Whew. Wow.
So we talk about glorifying. This ain't nothing glorifying about this. This is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. So when you say, you infer that when you just did that last verse.
Mm-hmm.
Give me another verse.
Out on the street, no time for sleeping or dozing. You know, nobody sleep. Everybody's on edge. That's why the shorties aren't dreaming and their futures are frozen. And they buy into them lies that the street life chose them. You know?
And there was another concept that I read a poem. And the poem talked about, I can't remember the exact words, but the poem talked about how we've robbed the children to be children. And one of the things they use is that they're no longer able to dream. And their dreams is a nightmare.
Wow.
For a child. I said, come on, brothers and sisters. Come on, this is what's happening. So the question is that, what we going to do about it? So Dr. Bonds was talking about some of the things, the kind of global things they're doing at MPS. Which is good, but we got to organize our community. Yeah. I mean, we got to organize our community, and we got to also tell our story. Yeah. So it's just, I don't know, man. This is scary stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that because that's the type of work that I do, community organizer, youth organizer specifically, and we're putting our plans together now. Some things I can't talk about until they release some of the things to the media. I think probably next week. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we sit, and this is what we talk about. We try to strategize and these community partnerships and this high level of collaboration, that of cooperation. That you talk about these things we're putting in motion, and it's kind of put up or shut up time because we can talk ad nauseum about what the problem is, what's this, what's that. But we got to start putting these moves in play, and that's what we're working on right now.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm down with you.
Appreciate it, brother.
I'm down with you. So what we can do is we can use this forum to promote, but also as we moving forward and trying to organize the community, you have you and the people that you're with have to have a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
So that we can have this intergenerational conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. We can start talking about solutions because it's just going to be very, very difficult if we don't change the behaviors that we have. And that behavior is not communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, a lot of times you hear it from both sides. You hear it from the older, from the elders, that the young people they don't want to listen, that they're doing it their way, and then you hear from the young generation, the elders, they out of touch,
right?
They don't want to work with us. But when you get us all and you sit down together and you start the young people start listening to the elders, and it reminds me of what Rahim often says sometimes is he doesn't see that disconnect that people are always talking about. They always say it doesn't work, but whenever we sit down and start talking, it works.
It's natural.
So right here is probably, I don't know how old you are, but it's probably
42.
in this room it's probably 3 generations right here in this room. So,
and I'm the youngest.
So when we sit down, we just start talking, it happens.
Well, I wrote this here about the black culture. See, most people will talk about what they see, and I say that's you got to just separate the morphing of our culture with American culture.
Right.
All right, because we're not. But the black culture is really about achievement, it's about greatness, and it's about excellence. So what you're describing when we do come together,
Together.
that's what you see.
It's our culture. It's not their.
That's what you see. You can't, because we have it naturally. It's in us naturally. If we're just not been, overwhelmed by ignorance, because we see ignorance.
Yes.
And if we're overwhelmed by ignorance, it doesn't allow that intellect spirit to come alive in us. And so it's like a flicker. But even them, if they put them in the right context, we can turn that flicker into a flame. Exactly. But they have to be amongst each other to do it.
That's right.
Because we have it naturally. And they never can take that away from us, even in spite of what they've done to us. We still have, a Dr. Bonds who
graduated with a
a 1.3 who was definitely was a toss away. Absolutely a toss away.
Exactly.
And clearly made it clear that he was not the smartest of his bunch.
Right.
There's no question. I go all the time. I mean, I don't talk a lot about my story, but I never made high school. I seen 3 months of 9th grade. Never seen high school.
Mm-hmm.
I lived high school through my children. I said, what was that like? Or how did you do that? What? They don't even know. But they don't know because I'm inquiring about what they're seeing
through their eyes.
Because I know I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it because I should have been like the rest of the statistics that say that there's no way in the world that I should be where I'm at right now, who I am right now. But I go to black achievement, black greatness, and black excellence. I was completely a toss away with no guidance, none. I didn't have any adult guidance in my life, probably starting around 11 years old.
Wow.
So, but there were people around me who said, you know what? I don't know. They must have seen something in me because I didn't see anything. Nobody told me anything about myself. I had no confidence about who I was. I didn't feel good about myself. I thought everything negative you could think about yourself, I thought about myself. Because how else am I supposed to know if somebody's not holding me and saying, and you're handsome and you're
Nobody tell you was handsome.
No, not anybody tell me I'm handsome. Nobody tell me that now. but the point I'm making, like a young girl needs to hear that they're beautiful.
Right.
And an old girl too. But the bottom line is that the foundation is built when they're young. And no one was telling me they loved me.
Right.
No one's telling me that, you mean the world to me, or no one's telling me nothing. I was just on my own. So I had to, and you have your own insecurities. So they get kind of pronounced when this environment doesn't produce. So, but there was a couple men in my life that basically took me under their wing. And I know, if I look at it in just kind of age, I just know that was a dysfunctional relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I know they knew I was 14, 15, 16, and acting like I was trying to act like I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had to know I was 14. And I lied and said I was 18. In fact, my first wife, she didn't find out until I got arrested. She didn't find out she was 22. She didn't find out I was 16 until I got arrested. And when she come to get me from being arrested, and she come bail me out.
Wow.
And then she had to make a decision. Did she leave this boy up in this joint, or she come get him? Guess what she did? She came got her man.
She came and got her husband out of jail.
Got her 16-year-old.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
I was holding it down at 16, and she had 2 children.
Well, they probably knew when you were younger, hanging with the older guys. They probably knew, but they also probably knew that they were fulfilling a void in your life.
Well, whatever.
Because you obviously wasn't nobody coming to get you.
No,
wasn't nobody
but
coming to pull you back.
But I'm just reflecting now,
Right,
though.
I
You
know.
I'm reflecting now, and I'm just going back to your son. It just hurt me when you said you had to go see your son. So I didn't know that my family cared about me until the day they had to come see me in prison. That's when I realized that
somebody cared.
they loved me and I had messed up.
So I got a question. So is it worse not having anybody there to kind of walk you through life, or is it worse having negative influencers, like kind of what we see right now, guiding your life?
No, I think they both worse. I don't know which is worse, but the point of it, I think that has to be made that none of those are acceptable.
Right.
None of those are acceptable options.
Right.
And then when the family is broke, and many of our families are broke, many times it is the community that comes to the rescue. And so they can overcompensate for things that are not happening. I mean, I remember clearly different families on the block who fed us. You know, they didn't. It was never ever perceived. I never perceived it as some real negative thing. You know, like you embarrassed or anything. You know,
it was just.
It was just. You know, get over here because this is what we're doing, and we're gonna make another play for you. You know, and look, I even got to the point I said, "Nah, I'm not eating there because I don't like that food.
I'm going over here.
I'm going. They have spaghetti meatballs over this other one. I'm going over there. What you having, Glenn? What you have? We have spaghetti meatball. What you having? We having Salisbury steak. What you having? We have pork chops. I'm going to spaghetti meatballs. I see you later. In fact, I almost did a double. I'll come back around and act like I didn't eat. And come in and eat twice.
That's all right.
So there was some perk from not having any supervision. No, but I think though the thing of it is that your chances of succeeding when you don't have structured family is significantly increased. Your chances of succeeding when you're not being told that you're loved is significantly increases or decreases. Your chances of becoming a productive human being when you're not allowed to be a child and to think and play as a child, because in that environment is the foundation for leadership. If you've been thrust into an adverse situation prematurely, it just cannot be a good thing. And the issue for us is that, all right, we're there, we got disruption all over the place. Now, how do we fix it? How do we kind of begin to mend it? And so we don't mess up more. There are ways to kind of fix it so we don't mess up anymore. And that's all we can do right now, because it's good and messed up.
Oh, as Dr. Bond said, bleak.
It's good and messed up. I mean, it is good and messed up. When I was talking about, I remember a young girl used to live next door to us, and I didn't really realize. I'm starting to realize now how young she was, but she had to have like 8, 9 children, and she couldn't have been, more than 22, 23 years old.
Wow.
And she had all of them different men. What was her psyche? What was she searching for?
Maybe
exactly.
that love she did not have.
There you go. What she was searching for something.
Yeah.
But all these children, and then these men have to deal with, and maybe she found a man. I mean, the man who could do something. Come on, he almost got to be damn near Moses or Jesus or Muhammad or somebody. I mean, he had to be almost with 8 fathers.
Maybe 8 fathers. Might be more than 8. I mean, right. You don't know.
More than 8?
Well,
but come on. That's real Jerry Springer stuff.
That was, I remember like growing up here, we were the haven. We had the best welfare around in Milwaukee.
People
AFDC.
moved here.
People moved here and had multiple kids because we had the best checks. That was why people came from Chicago, from Gary, from, Michigan or whatever to Milwaukee. I know people for a fact who told me, this was before W2, young lady told me, she said, I'm never working. She was like, for what? I'm hood rich right now. We was right on Palmer. That was about, that was about 89, 90. She told me that. She was like, I'm never working.
That was for welfare reform.
Yeah, that was before Tommy Thompson,
right.
put the flu flops.
Well, and so the point I wanted to make is, though, our children are very, very vulnerable, and we create them, they broken. We break them even more. We live in very, very traumatizing environments. But in spite of all that, and I bear witness, I'm one that I'd say what Dr. Bond said. I've seen smart people, and I wasn't one of them. You know, I had some skills in some areas, but I'm writing now, and I hated writing. But I learned the foundation of writing, and even now today, I probably write more than most people. But because I was able, but I keep it very simple. And I'm not no a guy who we just did a piece just recently on the called The Agenda for the Black Community, which really encompasses a lot of different areas that we have to focus at the state level, and which is applicable here as well. Right. And we talk about poverty, we talk about economics, we talk about some of the things in education, some of the things we can do in public safety, some of the things we can change right now and not be monumental, but change the direction that impact us, that help us. Mm-hmm. They're some of the laws right now, there are laws that can be changed. It could even executive orders can be changed around child support. It's a huge one. Getting your rights back to being your voting rights. Your driver's license. Your credit report. These are things that are kind of passive, but they're crippling. Mm-hmm. Especially if you don't have many supports, and then you now want to get your act together, you're starting way behind. You know, and then there's right now there's about most of the jobs that have any access to data. If you have any access, you have to have criminal clearance checks. And so you're killed right from the door. I mean, when I was growing up and I had criminal activity or whatever, I lied. I just said I just lied. They didn't have lie. And they says, "Oh, let's hire him. He's doing good. He's a good Negro. Let's hire him." They don't even know what they had in there. But today they got all these security and all this double check and triple check.
Security number, it's
boom, it blows up.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
So it ain't no faking it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Shucks. So today you can't do all that. In fact, probably we helped create those things, those foul-proof methods. All of our stealing got them tough and said, look, we got to figure out a way to stop these jokers.
Right.
You know, but clearly though, in spite of that, I see you, I see us, I see greatness. I don't see weakness. I see greatness. Absolutely. In spite of the challenge we have. So the question is, can we unleash this in a real way and not in any disadvantaged way? Can we really pull something together and pull us together and start holding up? And Brother Courtney gave us that sign. When black men lock arms together, he says, is nothing they cannot do.
And I wanted to also, it's a couple things I want to do. We got a little bit of time left, and I wanted to talk about, Dr. Bond mentioned the school. He mentioned it in passing, but we didn't talk about that. I want to definitely talk about that because that's going to enlarge the footprint for Universal. And I know you don't have to talk about it, but it's my job to talk about it.
Sure, go ahead.
I want to talk about that. I want to get into talk about a little bit about this article and some more about the targeted black male. I want to talk about the schools and what you were just saying. All of that ties in together. So Dr. Bond mentioned some of the things that he's doing is working together with charters. And you know, Milwaukee has long been educationally this big hotspot for, you're on this side or you're on that side. And one of the things that we've seen lately, and what Dr. Bond kind of spoke about a little bit, is that now Milwaukee has really kind of embraced the Milwaukee charters. And Universal actually is also a Milwaukee charter. Starting in the fall, we will have 3 charter schools here. Right. We already have 2. We have 2 campuses. We'll have a 3rd campus. And in this discussion, there's this whole choice charter argument that's been going on here in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's been a hotbed for it. But at the end of the day, the children lose. Mm-hmm. So it really shouldn't be choice or charter. It really should just be quality education.
Absolutely, I agree.
And that's been my argument for as long as I can. When it first started, I know before Rahim and I met at our first meeting, that was one of the first things we discussed, is that it really isn't about either or. It's about saving our kids and quality education. And I know that as the president of Universal, that's his position.
Yeah, it's something. I found that as one of the other distractions that kind of we look at, we go down that path and look like we lose 20 years before we realize that was the wrong path.
Right.
That again, some people will create agendas that supports their agenda and kind of support our agenda. We was talking earlier on an interview earlier today. And how do you avoid when you losing, especially we're talking about the struggle today of our young people, and then because they're talking about now, the original concept was Black Life Mattered, and now it is to all life matters. And so how do you not lose your identity and your agenda when you collaborate with others? The best way to do it is to have a very strong African centered approach. So you never lose. Is when you don't have an African centered approach, then anybody can sell you anything. So if there is a charter, and there's education is your issue, and somebody says it's a charter or a voucher or a public school, hey, it don't make a difference because I'm centered that I know that it got to be black, no matter what it is. And if it's black, I'm going to work with it. That's the first thing. Second is that, again, I've seen some of the tricks that's been played. I've studied some under the scholars, and they would describe them and show how these tricks can take us out of position for such a long period of time.
Divisiveness, right?
But it never ever nothing is better will ever beat working together. That's why the first principle of the day of Kwanzaa is unity. It is the foundation. You cannot get any better than that. And there's nothing wrong with, say, for example, we are working together, but you have a different opinion, I have a different than my opinion. But we agreed to work together. You go out, do your thing, I go out, we come back and check in on each other. And then we say, okay, well, what worked, what didn't work. But the bottom line is the fundamental thing that brings us together. We united. That doesn't mean, though, that we have to be monolithic. We have to be completely in agreement with each other.
Right.
And I talked earlier about in an article that we represent the most diverse, 47 million people are the most diverse group of people. We got everything. We got urban, rural. We got East Coast versus. Trust me, it's a different attitude that people live in East Coast versus the West Coast. It is a completely different attitude. If you don't believe it, just look at the rap.
Right.
Right. Look at this. I mean, I'm not a rap scholar, but that stuff that's coming out of Oakland and L.A. was completely different than New York.
Right.
I mean, because guess where the Black Panthers come from? Oakland. Oakland has got to be some gangster stuff going up in Oakland. Right. A combination of a lax attitude. You put those two toxics together, and boom, you got something going on there. I can't explain it. There's a different attitude from rural than urban. There's a different attitude than suburban and urban. We got men who have different attitudes than women. We have young, we have old, we have all kinds of people. And so we're not going to be, there's never going to be where we all like robots.
Right.
Let's get that in our heads right now. That's not the measurement. The measurement is that we're all African. We're all African-centered. And then if we African-centered, we have some sense and level of commitment to African and black people. And so that's the thing that bonds us and ties us together no matter what. We have educated and non-educated. We got, elite and non-elite. We got class system in black community. We got a higher class and a lower class. I mean, let's not act like it doesn't exist.
Right.
It does exist. But the goal, though, is that we all are tied together because of who we are. And when we look at it from that perspective, I'm telling you, I just see nothing. It's a miracle that we're not just wasted like, in many respects, the Indians. I mean, we are survived and thrived, and I start looking at our history books and start looking at some of the accomplishments we made going back deep in the middle of slavery, all the way up until now. Just massive contributions to society, to humanity. And then we deliver some of the greatest intellectual, spiritual thinkers in the world were black people. We just about some great stuff, but we're diluted.
Right. Diluted, divided. So it's fitting that today will be the first day of Kwanzaa, and that it's about collaboration, about unity, about coming together. And once again, it always ties us back to how insightful and prolific Kenny Gamble was when he came up with this universal concept. 20-something years ago. He might have come up with it before then. We don't know.
Oh yeah, he did. But he's coming up with stuff now. I got to hold on. I said, "Oh, come on."
The world ain't ready for that yet, Mr. Gamble. The world ain't ready for that.
He has his whole thing right now is one world, one people, and I think I'm in agreement. But we're rumbling now, philosophically now. But his thing is one world, one people.
Okay.
And
well, everybody wasn't ready for the universal yet.
Well, and I don't know how.
Before his time.
Here's the thing. The funny thing is that now he dropped this on us the other day. We had convened a meeting with the African and Caribbean community in Philadelphia, and we had about 35, 40 people who represented African and Caribbean organizations. And we met them to bring them into this think tank that we're talking about, into this whole sitting at this table. And, they're some of the most accomplished people that you can imagine. They're doctors and scholars and business people. They're just unbelievable. But here, so we're talking black this, black this, black this. And then Kenny come in there, one world, one people. I said, man.
You like, no.
Come on, man. Man. First of all, he had missed the meeting. He come in at the end of the meeting, and I was like, "Oh no!"
That's not.
We was in a black attack in that meeting. We was so triple black. I know. We was so black. We was black. Look, that room would turn black in a minute. I mean, we were so black this, and everybody was yelling and hollering. Yeah, we got to do this. We got to do that. And then Kenny came and said, "None of that means nothing." That means nothing. That's a trap. That's a distraction. It's one world, one people.
And you was like, this is my mentor, this is my elder.
So it never stops.
Right. So look, we just gotta remember that he
way ahead of us.
We here and he out there. So.
I know, exactly.
So I really wanted to make sure that we didn't kind of gloss over that, because this is really part of a plan. It's part of a plan. It's part of a movement. It's part of a mission. People always want to know, well, what are you doing here? And what is Universal doing here? And, what is this Rahim guy? Why is he here? Why is he in the papers? Why is he on the radio? And Universal has really planted roots here. It's not just a here today, gone tomorrow, because you've seen these different organizations that have come in. They come in, make a quick buck and gone. But Universal has really planted seeds.
And we ain't made no quick buck either.
They ain't made no
book. You can book it. This is everybody feeling like says, "Are you done lost your mind?" But I done fell in love with Milwaukee.
Right, and planted seeds here. So the footprint now is from, if you want to say, the northwest side from Green Tree, now all the way down to North Avenue with the new Lee Elementary campus. And that's a good footprint to start off. It's not the end, it's just the beginning. But 3 campuses. Our high school will be opening up in the fall. Universal Academy for the college-bound high school at the Webster campus on 53rd and Green Tree. So
tell somebody. So
we're
enrolling.
We're enrolling now. You can go to the website. You can call one of the schools.
I call this is my day job. This is my day job.
You can go to the website, uacb.org or universalcompanies.org. We are enrolling for 9th graders now, currently for our high school. And also, Universal is going to be doing some development projects coming up in the first quarter in 2015. So this is something that Universal has done in Philadelphia for quite a few years. But we're now going to start doing development here in collaboration and partnership with some developers here in Milwaukee. So these are things that are going to be happening and coming up. We have a caller. We're going to take our caller, and then after the call, we're going to go to a break. Caller, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I do. I just heard Dr. Bonds on the radio talking about education, and I hear that Brother Rahim talking about, it should be about education no matter what form. But Wisconsin, in particular Milwaukee, has been the hotbed for this discussion over choice voucher, homeschool, whatever the case may be. And you see this being played out in our tax base, how much the taxes are in the city of Milwaukee, funding sources for charter schools versus choice schools. And you hear this back and forth argument, and in the end, the adults are the ones who seem to be making out while the children are the ones who suffer. I mean, so I'm dig you on the unity piece, but I mean, even have Dr. Bonds on, as if he, he's removed from the situation. You couldn't even get a school, St. Marcus didn't even buy a school because of Dr. Bonds' initiative. So I'll hang up and I'll listen to that and continue the conversation. I'll continue listening well on Fridays.
Well, I definitely am not naive to know that definitely this is the hotbed for the whole country, and there's a lot of agendas at play. But I still don't think that when you have your own agenda, you still don't lose. And the problem is we don't have our own agenda. So everybody else's agenda takes precedent over ours because we just don't have one. And if we have one, we don't lock arms around it and fight for it. Because, again, part of having the agenda is fighting for it and not having a bunch of free agents and people constantly undermining Umoja. And the whole concept of unity and collaboration. And then you not expose the traitors, I definitely recognize the consequences of the actions of charter versus, voucher and versus public schools. But public school still is the largest educator in the city of Milwaukee.
And funded.
And so it still has to work. And we all should be committed to make it work. And the other thing that I see is a lot of religious schools in Milwaukee that get a pass. And so I don't know all of the historical, but I tell you one thing, I've never seen so many private schools until you come to Milwaukee. And I talk about in my article today, and I wanted to kind of I didn't get a chance to really thoroughly, I never really get a chance to thoroughly talk about, is that I just don't believe that the religious persuasion is really in the best interest of black people. At some point, we were introduced to Christianity. At some point, we were introduced to Islam. And I think Islam has benefited the Arabs, and Christianity has benefited the Europeans. But some kind of way, we have been indoctrinated with these way of life. And there's no bigger place than in Milwaukee that are educating our children from the ground. And Malcolm said, which I am a big follower of. He said, any people who turn their children over to the oppressor to educate them is a fool. And so I said it the same way. So whether you're a charter, whether you're a voucher school, whether you're a public school, it's the fact remains, the agenda should be that anybody who turns their children over to those who are oppressing them and teaching them consciously and subconsciously that blackness are inferior and that whiteness is supreme. And I can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt how these messages are getting in the educational system in multiple ways. So that should be our agenda as black people as regards to education. We should be fundamentally holding down the fort around educating ourselves about our greatness, educating ourselves about our achievements, educating ourselves about our excellence, and upholding the lifeline, the marketing tool for a people is its culture.
Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to wrap it up and talk about some next steps and talk about what's going on with the organization and talk about what's going on next with us, okay?
Sounds good. Sorry, I'm sucking on this honeybee. What is this honeybee? The people probably say, what the heck is he sucking on? Burt's Bees. Okay. I'm not going to do no advertising.
Yeah, because they ain't paid us no money.
No.
You are listening.
Is Burt black?
Oh, Dr. Burt is black.
Is this it?
No, that's not it.
Okay.
You're listening to Universally Speaking with Rahim Islam on 860 AM WNOV, The Voice. Welcome back to Universally Speaking with Rahim Islam on 860 AM WNOV, The Voice. We are in our last few minutes of the show. Rahim, these 2 hours just fly by. I'm thinking we're going to have to...
Ante up more? No. This is just enough. When I leave here sometimes, I'm mentally shot.
I can't tell.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm shot. Trust me. I got to recoup. I got to, it's like a gas in the tank, You put it out.
Well, gas is cheap now, so fill up.
Come on. You know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you're trying to say.
You always do that. I'm trying to make a point, and you take me down another road.
I know.
Gas ain't cheap. The gas is cheap. But anyway, the point I'm making is that you exhaust yourself and trying to be careful what you say and how you say it, but you're trying to get the message out. And it's taxing. It's very, very taxing. But I enjoy it.
It seems like time flies.
Oh, well, especially you here makes it easier because you can quarterback this thing, and I can just, you can just throw me layups all day long. Sometimes I can lay them up. Sometimes I slam dunk them. Bam! I like that.
So the series that you've been writing, You switched up on us for a minute, but I don't want everybody to get comfortable because I really feel like the black male, the targeted group, is coming back.
It's so important though, right? Because it's if you really want to kill a community or people, you take his men out. The men are still, unless they change the dynamics, are the provider and protector of the family. And if the men cannot provide and protect, then you have chaos.
Right. And I think about, I actually cooked this year. I cooked once a year. I cook on a regular basis, but a big meal I cooked.
Big meal, right?
Yeah, right. So I cooked, my oldest son came home and I cooked everything that he asked for the holidays. And I was up early in the morning, like 4 a.m., cooking, and it was quiet time. And I was thinking, this is really therapeutic. And then I thought back. I said, this is what was meant. We didn't need therapy because I'm sure that the mothers were up, the women were up, gathering and getting the things that they needed to cook, to prepare the meals. And this was their quiet time. Mm-hmm. And they were probably thinking and they were humming or meditating or singing or doing whatever. And this is their quiet time when they were preparing meals and preparing things for their family. And I thought, in the world that we live in now, this is what they used for therapy, because it was very therapeutic for me. It was quiet, and I was able to kind of lay out things that I needed to do and prepare and meditate and think. And I was like, this felt natural.
And they did it every day.
Right.
Every day. And the other thing I think the reward is that, I raised 3 boys. And sometimes my mother said, "Boy, you overfeed those kids," and because I did without for so long.
That you wanted to make sure your kids
look. I found out they were throwing the food away, because I was just totally ensuring that wasn't going to happen to my children, right? But here's the thing the point I wanted to make is that it's so satisfying when that's happening. And you see them eating your food
and
enjoying the food. And Mom, can I get seconds?
Right.
Can I get thirds? But the bottom line is that enjoyment is invaluable. You can't put a price on that.
No.
And so that's energy that want to keep you motivated. And when you don't have that, it's really, 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 really a big struggle. As you said, the therapeutic side of it. But also, I was telling somebody, a lot of our women don't know how to cook.
Yeah, I'm hearing that from a lot of men.
They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to prepare food. They can microwave some things, but they can't prepare from scratch.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And both my grandmothers taught me, and my great grandmother taught me how to. I can remember sitting in the backyard picking vegetables, and I remember learning how to make my first pie was an egg pie. I was a little
What's
girl.
an egg pie?
It's an egg custard pie.
Oh.
It only has 3 ingredients. That was the first pie that I learned how to make. It's just eggs. It's eggs. It's eggs and sugar. And vanilla flavor.
Like quiche or something.
No, it's an egg custard. No, not that. But it's really good. So anyway, I remember, these are things I can remember from my childhood and passing on now, obviously, to my goddaughters. But, I do hear a lot of men tell me that women don't cook, that they they
don't have to tell you. I'm telling you, it's the truth. it's real, and guess what? It's understandable. When we break the family down and the traditional roles, we have more women probably in the workplace now than we've ever had. I see women now raising children. They got to do both. Something's gonna suffer. You're not gonna be this great mom and be a great provider at the same time. You might.
It's a struggle. You see me sometimes in between meetings. I'm running home to cook dinner for my son and run back.
It's a struggle,
it's a lot.
And then got to take care of a grown man. It's a lot that a woman has to juggle. And so, but if she's really honest and be honest, and she's protected, the role of a mother is a phenomenal,
it's awesome,
unbelievable job. She is the mother of civilization. She is the first instructor for humanity. She is the comfort. She is the warmth that gives and feeds all of humanity. It is the highest position on the planet, and she's in complete control. What she doesn't know today, she doesn't know that because no one's teaching her that.
Right.
You used to see these guys, and I used to see him, and he says, "Dang, man, he don't never say nothing." And the woman is saying everything. I want this, I want this, I want that, I want this. And he's sitting there just saying nothing. He said, "Damn, somebody must have clipped him or something." No, he got it right. Those are the successful ones. Just hoping that she's compassionate.
They said, let her just.
She got it.
Just keep it moving.
Yeah. Look, I ain't got to say nothing. Now, trust me, I'm sure he's laying it down when he has to.
When he speak.
Look, it's almost like God is speaking, but he ain't got to.
So, I wanted to make sure that we wrap up. In the end, we will be back next Friday, same time, same station. In the last few minutes, though, do you have anything that you want to share?
Sure. Like I said, I don't know if I had given the name of where I was working, but I'm working with Safe and Sound. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the nonprofit organization, but we're doing some brand new things in 2015.
Okay.
some things were a little bit controversial some weeks ago. They were used to funding a lot of the youth programs, and now we're going a whole nother direction with positions like mine as a youth organizer and some other people. So I really love to let you know kind of what we're doing and be on the forefront of kind of getting the information out to the people so we can really, be about this business.
Okay. Well, you are welcome to come back. We are here
Great.
every Friday.
Great.
You can come back anytime and share the information or
Great.
what you're doing. Especially, I always tell people, anything that has to do with our young people, you do not even have to ask or sell it when it comes to Universal and Rahim, because that is his first thing,
That's beautiful.
Our youth. And so that's an open invitation right there. And I want to encourage everyone to pick up the most recent copy of the Milwaukee Courier for Rahim's column, Universally Speaking. This week's article is about Black culture, and I think that it is very important, especially today being the first day of Kwanzaa. This is very timely. I don't think he timed it that it would be like that. It just happened.
Oh, no, I did that. No, I'm joking.
But it's about Black culture. It's about achievement, greatness, and about excellence. So I want you to pick that up. You can also follow him on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also get his article online on any of his social media outlets. And we want you to also stay tuned. There will be a big announcement after the first of the year. We're going to be doing something really big in April here in Milwaukee, bringing Kenny Gamble, the Sound of Philly, some other Philly guests here to Milwaukee for a big celebration. So we want you to stay tuned for that announcement. Also, if you are not doing anything, we want you to make sure that you come out tonight to the Wisconsin Black Historical Society on 27th and Center tonight for the opening ceremony for Kwanzaa. Today is the first day of Kwanzaa, and I don't ever know if I pronounce it correctly, but it's Umoja, I believe,
You got
which
it right.
means unity.
You got it right.
Or as Rahim says, you don't want to scare people, so collaboration. That's one of the first 7 principles, and that is 6:30 tonight at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society. We want to also honor and thank Claiborne Benson for the work that he does over there at the Black Historical Society, just quietly on his own, preserving Wisconsin's Black history. Because people say it's black people in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I like to. I don't do this much, but I was told that my daughters are listening, and they're all together. So Mecca, Medina, Amina, and Saudia, I love you.
Aww, that's sweet. A tear. We love you too, and thank you for sharing your father with us. We appreciate you. So until next Friday, thank you for listening. You've been listening to Universally Speaking with Rahim Islam on 860 AM, WNOV, The Voice.